Hello everyone, Sam Diaz here. And first of all, thank you so much to everyone for the super nice comments, the encouraging words, and just all the compliments that I got on the video so far for the Bridgerton scoring competition. When I did that day and, told myself, hey, I only have an hour to do this because I did it on my lunch hour, I didn't think I would have this overwhelming response to the video. And, if I win, great. If I don't, just the response that I've had from everyone has made this whole thing worth it from the beginning. So it's just incredible, all the nice things that have been said. I didn't expect that at all, and it's been a really, really, really amazing experience so far. Now, a couple of you have asked me questions about virtual library, the virtual instruments I used. A lot of the questions that have been asked, either through YouTube or just forums, that have been privately messaged to me have been about this, how fast I did it, and how did I do it so fast? How did I know what to do from the get-go and stuff like that. And to be honest, a lot of this is just experience. I've been doing this for around 12 years already, 2010. I've been doing this. So, and I've done a lot of scores throughout these past 10 years or so. And to be honest, at the beginning, it was very, very harsh. If you listen to my scores from the beginning, they're atrocious. I overscored the hell out of everything. I would, put the latest library that I had on any score that I had. When I first got Damaged, I was putting that stuff on romantic comedy scores just because it was like the new library to get, and it was like the coolest sounding thing ever. I had some horrible feedback from directors on, in those instances. And now looking back, and obviously probably you're thinking, well, that's kind of obvious. But the thing with this is that scoring, writing music it's a very exciting thing to do. And it comes from a very emotional place, a very vulnerable place. But at the same time, we're hired to help tell a story, not tell our own story. We can, and I'm going to dive into that in a little bit, but it's mostly to help the director, the filmmakers tell their story through music and to enhance what's already on screen. So my 5 tips for today that I wanted to give are really basically mood, instrumentation, perspective, tempo, and when to go in and when to come out, repetition, modulation, and then telling your story. So let me quickly cover mood and instrumentation, and I'm just going to walk you through my process from the minute that I saw the clip, just the first time through. Because normally what I do is I'll watch a clip once through. If it's a sort of a long clip, I'll make markers, just marker notes in my DAW. So I'll, using SEMTI timecode, I'll just go in and make like a note, like for example, this lady is shocked, or this woman is upset here, or this happens, this person crashes here, whatever. I'll make just dramatic notes about what's drama that's happening in the story, not any musical notes. If I have an idea musically, maybe I'll put it in, like, a big bang here, or maybe we can have strings here or something like that. If it's something very specific that I know I probably won't remember in a couple minutes or in moments in the future. But I'll make those notes because those are detrimental to how I'm going to approach the storytelling aspect of it, and it's gonna determine everything. The instrumentation, the tempo, and all that stuff, because that first pass is super, super important. So, and also what's great about that first pass, you already start having ideas and stuff like that. Like, those first instincts, they always say those first instincts are usually the best, not always, but usually the best. And that's why I went with my first instincts on this and just sent it without, redoing and stuff like, because I know myself, if I spend weeks on this, I'm going to rescore this millions of times because I'm not going to be happy with anything, just from experience. Again, this is something that experience teaches you. So mood. If I'm through that first pass, I'm trying to get the drama. I'm trying to look at the narrative arc of what's going, the mood, how I'm gonna tackle this mood-wise. The idiom, right? The genre I'm gonna score it in, and that determines the instrumentation. What kind of instruments are going to help set this mood. And just from my perspective watching this, and I'm gonna get into perspective in a little bit, but perspective is, I got a really sort of comedic but lighthearted vibe from this. It's not taking itself too seriously, but at the same time, it's not like laugh out loud comedy. So it's like, how do I find that balance, right? How do I walk that line between something that's not too comedic, but something that's not too romantic, doesn't take itself seriously? and again, didn't have time to think. This is just something an instinct. I've done this before, so I kind of knew how to tackle it in my own way. And there's so many ways to approach this, but just how I would approach it is in that way. And then that leads me, and that's sort of how that determines the instrumentation. Now, as far as sample libraries, I mean, I literally pulled up the template that I've been using for the past couple of months, which is Nucleus, Audio Imperial's Nucleus, along with some Project Sam stuff from Orchestral Essentials. It's like the very basic libraries that you can get, and just wrote with that. You know, if I had all these super expensive Spitfire libraries and stuff like that, maybe I would go with that. But at the moment, that's what I had, and I've gone through so many. I was one of, yeah, I used to use the original VSL libraries and stuff like that back in the day, and putting them in rooms with Altiverb. So I've been through all that stuff, and to be honest, I've kind of learned the hard way that none of that stuff really matters. It's how you write and what you write, and what allows you to express yourself in the best way possible. So as far as libraries, don't worry. Just use whatever you have, whatever sounds good, and whatever you can play and write with fast. Now, perspective is something that's super, super important, because you want to, I mean, and this is something that I usually discuss with the directors, because directors will tell you exactly what the perspective should be. Like, for example, right after the titles, when the queen is walking, I think she's a queen, I'm not sure, but she's walking down the hallway. How does one want that scored? For example, a director can tell you, like, hey, look, this is supposed to feel kind of funny, but in reality, we want to score from her perspective, her head, like she's royalty. So I want you to score it like a march, like a royal march and stuff like that, you know, something grandeur or something like that, or you're majestic, right? Those kind of things are stuff that you usually discuss with a filmmaker or director. Now, the thing with competitions like this is kind of you have to figure out on your own and kind of make choices, right? You know, do you want to write serious music in those moments or throughout the whole piece, sort of to juxtapose the comedy, or do you want to play more on the comedy? Do you want to play more on the lightheartedness? You know, those are choices you have to make, but those are very, very important to make, and sort of just like decide and settle on those, because that will determine also the mood, the instrumentation, and everything about the score. Now, for me, I decided to score this from the narrator's point of view, the voiceover. I'm not sure who that is. It sounds like the lady from Sound of Music is doing the voiceover for the, you know, narrating the whole thing. But what I find interesting is sort of like the way she's sort of like her cadence, the way she's presenting the dialogue and everything is sort of comedic, but also kind of serious. So I'm like thinking, well, let me see if I can in some way represent that with the music, not overdo it on the comedy, but at the same time have a very lighthearted feel to it. And I'm one of those that have used pizzicatos a lot in the past. I kind of did in this one a little bit, but I try not to rely too heavily on those, because then it just starts sounding really cheesy after a point. So I tried finding ways, you know, with the instrument palette that I had, on how to best represent that. And that's something you just kind of just go with on a mood, and you play it back, see if it works. If it doesn't, if you're on a time crunch, you kind of just make those decisions quick, and, you know, delete, right from scratch, try it again. It's kind of like spaghetti. You just throw it on the wall and see if it sticks or not. And the more you do this, the more, again, the easier it will come to you, and the easier it will be. Now, that brings me to tempo. Tempo is so, so crucial, because, you know, in filmmaking, we have this thing that if you're gonna set up a shot, the first thing you wanna do is determine what type of shot you want to do. Is it a Zolly? Is it a panning shot? Is it a tilt shot? Is this something you're doing with a slider or a gimbal? And then it's a specific movement. Is it a whip, or, you know, camera whip kind of thing? All those things are important, but one of the other things that, you know, that's very, very important in filmmaking is determining your in and out point. You know, where does the shot begin and where does it end? And usually when you determine what type of shot you're doing and the in and out point, the rest kind of works itself out. I mean, you have to do several takes, just like in music, you have to do several takes on certain things, work things in between, but a lot of the work is done for you already. And that is so, so crucial when you're determining tempo. And usually when I'm determining sort of the tempo or what kind of speed I want to do, I'll look at several things. First of all, I try not to do it scene by scene. I try to do it sort of in sections and story wise, where it makes sense to do it. I'll do it like, you know, I'll usually stop if there's something like, you know, to showcase passage of time, or if there's there's been too much music, we need sort of breathing room, then I'll sort of end the music right before that and then kind of let it pick up, or in intense moments pick it up from there. And all these little decisions are something you have to make beforehand, and I try to make these beforehand because it's just very, very important to how you're going to set up your modulations, your chord changes, where the melody is going to go and stuff like that. So I try to figure out the end point and the out point of my tempo decisions. So for example, in this score, when the lady, when it's that comedic moment with the queen, that she receives the letter, I kind of started a musical piece there, and I could have ended it when we showed the girl, but I wanted to play through that because it's sort of connected. The story-wise, what she just read is sort of connected to what's happening in the next scene, and then I kind of ended it there. And then there's like a passage of time. It looks like it's later on the day, and then it's showing that next scene, and that's when I started the next piece of music. So, and again, there's so many ways you can tackle this. You can probably have one whole piece just played through all of that, or you can have several pieces. But it's important to make those decisions early on, and just mark it. Mark your tempos. Just to give you an example, how I decided the tempo for when the lady, right after the main titles, when the woman's walking, is based on their footsteps. If you look at the footsteps of so if you're looking at the shot, the guy to the left, or to the queen's right side, I guess, and nearly all of them, they're all kind of walking with the same cadence, like same speed, like dun 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 dun, that kind of thing. And that really determined the tempo for me, because it's, if you play it too slow, then it feels like it's dragging, and then if you play it too fast, and it sounds like everyone's in a hurry. But these people are just going about their day like it's just another day. Everything's going fine, nothing out of the norm, and that's kind of how I wanted to score it. So tempo in and out, super important. Make sure you focus on those. Then the other thing is repetition and modulation. So just to give you an example, the idea that I played in the beginning is this idea. Right at the main title. Very simple. I'm going from a major chord to a sus chord. Not much to it, but that little idea is presented, I think, around 3 or 4 times in the short that I did it. And again, I've just done this already so many times that if I pick an idea, I'll kind of just know how to represent it in different ways. It plays when the girl's, sort of pacing around the room with her maid, and it also plays at the very, very end, when her and her sister are walking down the stairs, and then, we cut out. And the reason I do this is because it just helps the listener sort of have familiarity with what's going on, and helps them keep them engaged, and it also helps the music not sound so random. And that's basically what other people refer to this as motif in development, where you have a little motif, and you just represent that in different ways. So one way that you can do this is just have an idea and just represent it in different ways, orchestrationally, which is a very, very effective way to do it. That's kind of what I did in this score. So the main titles, I did it with a violin, a solo violin. When the girl's pacing around the room, I did it with a flute. And then at the end, I think I did it with violins and violas in unison. And that really, really, really helps sort of feel everything like, make everything feel like it's very cohesive, unified, and it doesn't feel too random. So, and that's just a lot of repetition, modulation. If you listen to the part with the queen, how I scored the queen section, that quirky part, when I go to the girl, when we cut to the girl that she's pacing the room, I literally take the same idea and I modulate it, to sort of up the stakes and stuff like that. So I use that a lot, modulation and just key change. It's the same idea, but just change the key to up the stakes, and also just keep it moving, but not let it feel too random, or if it's not part of or if it's like a new piece of music and stuff, like you don't always want that. You don't want to make everything feel so random. So again, unity, cohesion, and that comes a lot from repetition, modulation, and picking your ideas early. And remember, this is a short film. You want to pick something too complex, like a very elaborate musical idea. You want to keep your ideas simple. And then the last thing I wanted to cover is tell your story with it. And why I say that is help tell the story that's on screen, but at the same time, you want to put your personality on it, right? You want to put your taste on it, like how would you score this, and that's the bad thing sometimes. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this quick is because I didn't want to look at any other submissions before I submitted mine, because I wanted to score this how Sam Diaz would score it, not how anyone else would score it, because I know if I look at other scores, I'm going to get influenced by that or start comparing myself. Or again, start just rewriting, because I'm not going to be happy with anything I do. So, if you haven't seen anything, or if you have, just make sure to, at the end of the day, score it how you're going to score it. Because if you win, you want to win for, for yourself and for how you write. And ultimately, you want people to hire you for you. You want people to hire you to sound like this person or that person. And the other thing is, have fun with it. I mean, with this score, I didn't even take myself seriously. I think when I did it last year, the Stargirl, I was a little more serious about it. I don't know how many times I rewrote that one. And I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't win, but more than that, I wasn't really ultimately happy with the score. There's so many things that I was like, man, I overthought this. And again, this is not so much about winning, but also just, it's a craft, right? It's an art form. So you want to perfect your art form, you want to perfect your craft and do your best with it and tell the story that you want to tell. So tell your story, but make sure more than anything, you're telling the story that's on screen. And other things to keep in mind are try to stay out of the way of the dialogue. So make sure you're listening to the frequency of the instruments that you're writing for, and also the frequency of their dialogue. Are the instruments kind of like in the same frequencies, or meddling around with it? Is the music too loud? Even if it is, you can probably lower the music and stuff like that, so it stays out of the way of the dialogue. And the other thing, I was gonna say was just, no matter where you are and what level, because I saw some people like, oh, I just started, whatever. No matter what level you are, just do your best, submit it, just keep those things that I said in mind, and just keep going at it. This thing is, something I've learned is this takes a lot of years to master. It's not an easy, I haven't even mastered it yet, but it's not an easy craft or art form at all. It's very, very difficult, very underappreciated, I hate to say it, and often underpaid, but it's a beautiful art form. I love it, and I love doing it, and I think it's a great community. The scoring community is a great community, and again, I'm super thankful to everyone. Hopefully this video helps some of you. I would like to do more tutorials in the future, and I probably will. Work's been so busy. Another reason why I had to score the thing as fast as I did, but I would love to. If there's enough interest for it, if there's enough ask for it, I'll definitely do more tutorials showing some real world cases of scores that I've done for my friend Armando Ferreira, Lucas Colombo, and other filmmakers that I've had the amazing privilege to work with and still work with to this day, and show you some real life examples of how I tackle those, and kind of what I look for when I first look at the image and how I'm going to score it. So thank you. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.